The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, now at episode 129, and I am your host, Ray Russell, here to bring you more news and results, this time for May of 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. Guys, can't wait to get into it, so we won't waste any time here this week, eh? We'll jump right into it, guys, right out of the gate here. Going to be looking at the news for May of 1988, and you guys will be happy to know that the Jumping Bomb Angels, Norio Tateno and Itsuki Yamazaki, have returned to Japan. However, they will be continuing to defend those World Wrestling Federation Women's Tag Team titles internationally now. More on that here later in the summer of '88. Also reported that Roddy Piper has signed a 3-picture multi-million-dollar deal with John Carpenter. Of course, John Carpenter at the time, huge in the horror film industry as a director. Now, in Meltzer's notes, as far as The Observer goes, he says, one thing must be noted about Piper's movie career. If and when one of Roddy's flicks gets released, if they don't draw well, then Piper will no longer be considered a hot commodity in Hollywood, and the rest of these movies will quickly be forgotten. Now, I don't know where Meltz got all of this info from, but I did a deep dive into Roddy's movie career here, and of course he did release quite a few. Not many were much of a success per se, but They Live obviously was a big deal at the time, but I don't see anything that follows this that would suggest that Roddy Piper was ever given a multi-million-dollar contract here in Hollywood. And of course we know it'll be another year, but it won't be long before the Hot Rod returns to the squared circle. Now, DeMeltz also says in the Observers around this time period that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was not at the recent TV tapings as advertised, but he's billed for plenty of upcoming tag team matches. It's going to be the Dragon scheduled to team with the Rock Down Morocco. How's that for a pair? Former arch nemesis now, I guess they were scheduled to be tag team partners to take on the team of the Islanders, Haku and Tama. I guess a Pacific Island feud there. The Islanders versus a couple of Hawaiians, Steamboat and Tom Morocco. And so obviously we know that's not going to be, because Ricky Steamboat officially gone. As Meltzer finally gets wind of that, he announces that it appears that Steamboat has announced his retirement for now in the world of professional wrestling. Steamboat going back home to spend more time with his family, his brand new baby boy, of course, Little Dragon, and maybe take care of that gym over there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rumor of another talent coming into the company very soon. Lots of talent coming in over the summer, guys, so stay with us. But one of those names rumored to be Owen Hart. He's reportedly going to start here under a masked gimmick, trying to emulate Tiger Mask, so says DeMeltz anyway. Aimed at the kids will be this character. Of course, he's talking about the upcoming Blue Blazer. Meltzer says that character would get over great if Owen had people to work with here in the WWF, and also if the World Wrestling Federation wasn't so fussy about letting Owen do his good moves for fear that he'll make the others look bad. Really, Meltz? Another rumor, and this is a weird one, guys. Curious who started this one. It's reported that the WWF was going to give Tapu Taylor of the Tio and Tapu tag team, the secondary, the poor man Samoans, if you will. I hate to put it that way, but it is what it is. Tapu Taylor and Angel Acevedo. That would be Calgary Stampede's Cuban assassin, if you're keeping score. So Angel Acevedo and Tapu Taylor, a Nicaraguan tag team gimmick, heel tag team there. But apparently minds were changed on that one. Story's hard to believe, guys, because you look at both of those guys, if you know who they are, not really the size of the talent you would want here in the WWF. Certainly not Vince McMahon size guys. And I don't just mean in the steroid department, but really both of them short in stature as well. So kind of weird that this storyline got its way out there. But another thing that I noticed is seeing Angel Acevedo's name here. Huge feud, and I don't mean in the storylines, with Bad News Brown. These two did not get along in Calgary, and there's some issues that actually transpire here at a WWF house show between the two as well backstage at some point. Rumor goes that it was Bruce Hart who got Bret to bring Bad News over to the WWF to get him out of Stampede because there were so many issues going on backstage, specifically with Bad News and the Cuban assassin of Stampede fame. It's also reported here in the notes of May 88 that Hulk Hogan's wife, Linda Balea, gave birth to a 10-pound, 1 ounce, wow, that's a big baby girl named Brooke Hogan, May 5th, 1988. It was the couple's first child. If you guys remember, going back about a year or so, I believe Linda was pregnant in early 87, but they lost their baby. This time, Brooke Hogan is born, and we know she's still around here today in 2024. Also, TV show Entertainment Tonight was filming at the recent Wrestling Challenge tapings on May 11th in Minnesota, and they're going to be conducting a 3-part in-depth journalistic look at professional wrestling. That's sports entertainment, pal. Going to air between May 23rd and May 25th on Entertainment Tonight. And I got to say, if anybody has these videos, if it in fact did air, please drop me a line, drop me a DM. I'd love to see these. As WWF also looking at running a Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth wedding event as a TV special. Wow, all the way back in 1988. DeMelt's quips, wouldn't shock me to see it head-to-head with Crockett's July pay-per-view. Great American Bash versus the wedding of Randy and Liz. Now, of course, we know that won't take place for another 3 years in 1991 as part of SummerSlam. So, right season, wrong year, Melts. As the new WWF TV announcer we'll be seeing here in the month of May is a man by the name of Sean Mooney, who reportedly formerly produced This Week in Baseball and also co-hosted Light Moments in Sports with Joe Namath. Wow, Sean Mooney and Joe Namath. Sounds interesting. Sean Mooney on his way to the World Wrestling Federation. Actually, we're going to talk about him once again here before we get done this week on the Grenade. But Mooney going to pop up here in about, say, mid-May, in a week or two here on the Grenade as the new host of the Events Center. So Sean Mooney has arrived, guys. Also arriving here in the WWF is the longtime AWA commentator, Rodger Kent. He's coming in to work as kind of a supplemental commentator for those televised house show events. It's also reported that the WWF, in starting this new post-WrestleMania season, no longer going to have the managers travel to the house shows, except for the TV tapings. So you won't be seeing guys like Bobby Heenan, except in the cities he's booked to wrestle, Mr. Fuji, Slick, Jimmy Hart, etc., at your house shows unless they are booked specifically for those events. And of course, they will be appearing at the TV tapings. And that's simply being done to cut costs. Now, there are conflicting reports at this time if Miss Elizabeth will indeed continue to represent the Macho Man on the house shows or not. Now, you have to believe, knowing Randy Savage, that she's coming along for the ride either way. So I'm assuming Elizabeth going to be a part of that package. A huge part right now of the sell job is his inspiration, the lovely Liz. Will she or won't she be part of the house shows? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she is. I also believe Virgil going to continue to work the house shows as well with the $1 Million Man. So we'll have to see how long this goes on here, keeping the managers off the road to cut some costs. I'm sure some of them, like Bobby Heenan, who's doing plenty of TV, he doesn't mind. Another guy headed in, we talked about Owen Hart. How about this one? He's already going to be making his debut right here in just a few minutes. I'm talking about Big Bubba Rogers from the NWA, the UWF. Well, he's going to make his debut in the month of May with a prison guard gimmick by the name of the Big Boss Man. As another departure, we talked about some incoming talent like Big Boss Man, Owen Hart coming in. And of course, we're going to see Joe LeDuc make his debut as well. But let's talk about a departure here. It does appear finally now by the end of this month that Islander Tama, a.k.a. Sam Fatu, the twin brother of Rikishi, he's going to be quitting the World Wrestling Federation, which is why we're going to see him disappear from the Islander tag team on the house shows. He's going to be briefly replaced by High Chief Afi, CV Afi, along with Haku, as the Islanders continue on here for the next month and a half. As DeMeltz quips, once again, he says they go from one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling to one of the worst. Haku and Tama, Haku and CV Afi. I can't really argue that. Now, there have been two reasons rumored over time for Tama's quitting here in May of 1988. Now, one of them being that he was simply upset with his payoffs, especially at WrestleMania 4. Now, I don't know how quick they get those payoffs. at least back then. Now, reportedly it took some time to get there. In this regard, apparently, the story goes, he wasn't happy. I've heard him say it in the past that his argument was that he wasn't getting paid what he thought he was deserved, and thus he quit. Now, another story going around at this time, remember Sika, the uncle of Tama, finishing up at WrestleMania 4. He was released following the pay-per-view, and the story goes that maybe it was the Anoa'i family, the family pride, getting involved in telling Tama that he needed to quit the WWF in order to support his family member Sika. And I find that hard to believe because Sika was on his last legs here. He was honestly throwing a bone to even be part of the company by this point in time, if you ask me anyway. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Not a whole lot going on here into May of 88, but a whole lot coming. I do promise you that. But that's about it for May news, guys. But at this time, guys, we're going to get ready for May results here for 1988. Got some sound bites lined up from the Boston Garden, MSG, Philly Spectrum. Lots to look at here. But before we do that, we're just going to take this quick WrestleCopia brand timeout. Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron. I'm talking about that $5 all access tier over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts for just $5, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. We also offer remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show covering the 1989 NWA project. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation never heard before. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon-exclusive Watch-Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. And for those who like all of their podcasts in one nice, neat little pile, the WrestleCopia Patreon also offers a Patreon-exclusive Spotify account. You can actually go over to your Spotify with your WrestleCopia Patreon credentials. Instead of listening or downloading directly from Patreon, you can go over to Spotify, listen to all the latest shows, including all of the early releases. And you get all of that and so much more for just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia podcast network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come. All right, guys, welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. And we're just about ready to get into those May 1988 results. So I'm asking everybody at this time, don't forget to head on over to the historyofwwe.com. Great site created by Graham Cawthon some 2 decades ago and kept up by Richard Land. So head on over to the history of WWE and click on that 1988 result link for the World Wrestling Federation and scroll along with me as we look at the results here for May of 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. And remember, guys, we're getting into those cookie cutter results now where a lot of the nights, very similar cards, and it all starts here May 1st and 2nd on the West Coast, headed off May 1st, Los Angeles Sports Arena, and then May 2nd, San Diego at the Sports Arena. Now, LA going to draw 13,000 fans both nights. It's Brady Boone over Steve Lombardi with a German suplex out of the corner. Lanny Poffo defeating Barry Horowitz. Rick Rude scoring a pin over the Rock Don Morocco. Dino Bravo over Ken Patera via forfeit after an arm wrestling contest. Bravo attacking Patera, deeming him unable to compete for the wrestling matchup. So Bravo getting a forfeit win, and we're all the better for it. As the Ultimate Warrior also on the card, pinning the Mighty Hercules. Bret Hart battling Bad News Brown to a 20-minute time limit draw. Then from there, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase with Virgil defeating the WWF Champion Randy Savage on a countout. Virgil shoving Savage off the top rope as he was going up there for the flying elbow drop. Virgil making the save, Savage taking a bump outside and eating the countout loss. No doubt maybe Macho got some revenge post-match. I'm not sure, but DiBiase going to score that win on a countout, so the title will remain with the Macho Man. One final matchup here on the night, Strikeforce scoring a win over Tag Team Champion Demolition on a disqualification. Also on May the 1st and 2nd in Milwaukee at the Mecca in front of 6,100 sellout crowd. Also May 2nd, Evansville, Indiana at the Roberts Municipal Stadium. Now originally it was supposed to be Jake the Snake Roberts taking on the King Harley Race, but we know Race is going to be out until the fall. Also scheduled for this card was Greg Valentine versus Ricky Steamboat. This was supposed to be the Dragon's Revenge after losing to the Hammer at WrestleMania. Well, we know Steamboat now quote unquote retired. So what do? We take those matches and make it one. And instead, it's Jake Roberts pinning Greg the Hammer Valentine with the DDT. Also on the card, Ladies Champion Sherri over Desiree Peterson. Scott Casey defeating Iron Mike Sharp. It's the Rougeau brothers over the Killer Bees. Battle of the Baby Faces. Not so sure about that. We'll look more into that as we continue on here. Also, the Islanders teaming up with Bobby Heenan once again over the Birdman Koko Beware and the British Bulldogs. Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man over Brutus the Barber Beefcake on a countout. Andre the Giant also scoring a win over Hacksaw Jim Duggan on a countout. Andre clocking Duggan with his own 2x4 there. Going to close out the night. And then we look at our final shows for May the 1st and 2nd. I guess these would be the C shows, guys. Talking about Lock Haven, Pennsylvania at the Thomas Fieldhouse and Spencer, New York at the Spencer Van Elton High School Gym. All right, 1,700 fans there in Spencer, New York. And they're all out to see the newcomer, Joe LeDuc, has arrived here. The Canadian lumberjack, a.k.a. headbanger here in the WWF. He's going to score a win over Jose Luis Rivera with a backbreaker. Then from there, it's Outback Jack over the Conquistador. Sam Houston battling Danny Davis. Young Stallions versus the Bolsheviks. George Steele going one-on-one with Jim the Anvil Neidhart. How fair is that? The Hitman gets Bad News Brown, and the Anvil gets Animal Steel. And the main event, it's Bam Bigelow going over on the one-man gang by DQ. Now, some of you guys might be saying, wait a minute, Ray, you didn't give us results for a lot of those matches. It's because I don't have results for many of those matches, but I do have a few there, including the main event of those C shows. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. Bigelow going over the gang by DQ here in the C towns. Here's a familiar city, for me anyway. We're heading off to May the 6th and 7th. May 6th, the Richfield Coliseum. Suburban Cleveland, Richfield, Ohio. May the 7th, Indianapolis, Indiana at the Market Square Arena. Going to see this card. Barry Horowitz over Jose Luis Rivera. Brady Boone defeating Steve Lombardi. Ladies Champion Sherri over Desiree Peterson. The Ultimate Warrior again over Hercules. Dino Bravo defeating Ken Patera. This time the matchup stopped due to an injury in the match. Dino Bravo beating down on the Olympic strongman. Bam Bigelow battling the one-man gang to a double DQ. It's Haku and High Chief Afi now subbing for the Islander Tama. They're going to score a win. Listen to this. A very odd pairing of Rock Don Morocco and Hillbilly Jim. Oh my goodness. Hillbilly Jim apparently subbing in for Steamboat here. So it was to be Haku and Tama versus Morocco and Steamboat. And now we're down to High Chief Afi and Hillbilly Jim. My, how the card has changed here. I'm glad I did not participate at this card of the Richfield Coliseum. Also in the main event, both nights, Randy Savage defending his title successfully over the $1 Million Man. As we head off May 6th, 4,200 fans sellout at St. John's, Newfoundland and the Memorial Stadium. Going to see Joe LeDuc over the Masked Demon, Big Boss Man defeating the Conquistador. How about that? Boss Man making his WWF debut, I do believe here. In case you're wondering, Boss Man is a heel. The Conquistador actually subbing for Leaping Lanny Poffo here. So Poffo wise, he got the hell out of Dodge just in time to avoid the Big Boss Man. As George Steele here over Jim Neidhart on a countout. Poor Anvil. Sam Houston defeating Johnny K9. It's JYD, Junkyard Dog, over the Outlaw Ron Bass. And the Young Stallions battling the Bolsheviks to a no contest. Really, we couldn't have a winner in that one. As we continue on 3 nights in a row, going to see action in May 7th, 8th, and 9th. First in Harbor Grace, Newfoundland, followed by Gander, Newfoundland, and finally Brantford, Ontario at the Civic Center. Going to close out that 3-night event. Joe LeDuc over Johnny K9, Big Boss Man defeating Leaping Lanny Poffo, George the Animal Steel continuing to defeat the Anvil on a countout, Sam Houston over the Conquistador. Conquistador subbing for Danny Davis there. It's JYD over the Outlaw by DQ. And once again, the Young Stallions and Bolsheviks, no contest. Come on, we can get more creative than that. As we roll on, going to see the similar results here. Hershey, Pennsylvania, Hershey Park Arena on May the 6th. And the following night, Boston Garden, Boston, Massachusetts, May the 7th, in front of 12,000 fans. And right now, guys, as we get ready for the results, first we're going to go off to Mean Gene Okerlund, sitting by in the event center. We're going to hear a slew of interviews upcoming right now from Andre the Giant, Bobby Heenan, Bad News Brown, Demolition, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the IC Champion Honky Tonk Man, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and the Hitman Bret Hart. And I'll meet you guys on the other side.
All right, hi, get everybody here in Boston. Gene Okerlund back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. We are 1 week away next Saturday night in the Boston Garden. Terry O'Reilly and the Boston Bruins. What a fantastic year you have had. And, of course, Casey Jones and our Boston Celtics. Nothing but the best of luck to you. Going to have a lot of luck. I'll tell you what, to make this one, I suspect we are going to have a jam-packed house in the Boston Garden next Saturday night. And I can see why. A phenomenal card. A title defense for the Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man. Challenging him, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Jimmy Hart. The Colonel has been barred from the building. He ain't going to be allowed in the Boston Garden. And by the way, Ed Carpenter, my very dear close personal friend, I think you knew it was just a matter of time when Hacksaw Jim Duggan would get a shot at this man, Andre the Giant. Andre, eighth wonder of the world, standing by with his manager, Bobby Heenan.
You know, I think how Andre the Giant had his hands around your neck, the same way he had his hands around Hogan's neck. And the way you reached and got a lucky shot, just got that hand on a 2x4. The luck, how you knocked this man out. Well, that luck's never going to happen to you again. You know what's going to happen to you again? This man.
Cross-eyed Duggan. Ask Hulk Hogan I fell to get those hands on his neck. Believe me, Cross-eyed Duggan, you probably put me down with that 2x4. But this time you come in the ring just to face me. And when I get rid of you, boss, when you're going to get out of that ring, you're going to feel like a just. I'm going to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze.
Oh, what a battle of the superpowers. Can you believe it? Hacksaw Jim Duggan even having the gall, the unmitigated gall to attack Andre the Giant. That is going to be a something else meeting. Bret Hart is going to be meeting this man, Bad News Brown.
Bret Hart, you slimy dog. I won the battle royal. You took my trophy and you broke it. But for every little piece,
that was laid out on the ground, I'm gonna break a bone in your body, because every day in Harlem, I meet somebody like you, and I take them down and I spank them like the baby that you are. But you, I'm gonna come down with everything that I have. I'm gonna make you sorry that you did what you did.
Join us if you can in 1 week's time next Saturday night, the Boston Garden. All right, Boston, we have got not one but two title defenses. Honky Tonk and Beefcake for the Intercontinental title. But how about Demolition? And a mandatory title defense for them. They're going to be facing Tito Santana, Rick Martel, former tag team champions. They think they were robbed.
Straight force. I kind of like it when we hit you and you go down and get back up. But it gets a little hard after a while, doesn't it? It hurts a little bit when you come back, because you're going to get a lot more. You're coming after our property. You're coming after our money. You're coming after our championship belt. It's not going to be easy, fellas. Master Fuji says it's 100% full go, and that means war.
All right, the Demolition Axe and Smash with a tag team title defense against Strikeforce. Earlier on, we heard from Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant. Right now, let's hear from Hacksaw, Jim Duggan.
You know, you got to understand one thing, Andre. I only hit you one time with this board right here, and you went down. So you like to talk about the way old Hacksaw specs work. You like to talk about Hacksaw being cross-eyed. Well, brother, understand one thing. When I start driving you into the ground, well, your eyes may look this way, your eyes may look that way, but I guarantee you one thing. Your eyes will be looking up at the ceiling, because you're going to be out, and old Hacksaw's going to be parading around with my 2x4 tall. And we know it's Duggan, not Dugan, and you better not stick your nose in there, or I'll whack the weasel too. Tough guy, ho!
All right, those are the comments of Hacksaw, Jim Duggan. In a week's time, he's going to be facing Andre the Giant here in town at the Boston Garden. Get your tickets in advance to see Andre meet Hacksaw Jim. Tough guy. Hi-yo! Well, that's the end of that anyway. In addition, you're going to be seeing the Honky Tonk Man, the reigning Intercontinental Champion, going up against Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Jimmy Hart has been barred from the Boston Garden next Saturday night. Demolition Axe and Smash to face Strikeforce. As I said earlier on, Strikeforce feels they were jobbed out of the World Wrestling Federation title belts. Bret the Hitman Hart is going to be facing Bad News Brown, Jake the Snake, Craig the Hammer Valentine, and a ton of others next Saturday. All right, fans here throughout New England, get ready to Boston Garden. Coming up next Saturday night, tremendous World Wrestling Federation card. Andre the Giant to meet Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, but there is more. Hold on. Yeah, Brutus the Barber Beefcake meeting the Honky Tonk Man. He says he's the greatest entertainment package of all time, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. That may be the case, but Honky Tonk, you're going to have to go it alone without the services of your agitating manager, Colonel Jimmy Hart.
Let me tell you something, Brutus Beefcake. You think my hair looks funny? Well, baby, when this match is over with, you're going to be the biggest joke ever.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake with no hair, a bald barber. That's what we want to see. That's what the public demands now. That's how I get all of my votes of confidence. I ask the people, I ask my fans, they say, we want to see Brutus the Barber get a haircut. And it's going to happen, Brutus, because you've messed with the wrong people now. You've messed with Jimmy Hart, and you messed with the Honky Tonk Man. Not putting me to sleep, not cutting my hair.
Surprise! Surprise! Maybe you sold some of that grease in your hair to Saudi Arabia to get rid of the national debt? No, I don't think so. But you better think about this. The sleeper hold, wrap it around your neck, and the lights going out. You feel that head of yours. And there's nothing there, man. That's it.
I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference to Brutus the Barber Beefcake. You recall in WrestleMania 4, he really hit the old snafu on Jimmy Hart and gave him quite a haircut indeed. Bad News Brown, I got bad news for you, pal. You're going to be squaring off against this man, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Listen here, Bad News Brown. In WrestleMania 4, the whole world got to see what Bad News is all about. And I know personally firsthand that you are nothing but a double cross. And the Hitman, the greatest professional technical wrestler of all time, has been pushed too far this time. I'm not saying I'm the most popular guy in the world, but let me tell you something right now, Bad News Brown. When you get in the ring with me, it's going to be all Hitman, back and forth, and it's going to be payback time.
All right, the good news for Bret the Hitman Hart is that he has the match with Bad News. Bad News Brown. And the bad news for you, Mr. Brown, is the fact that you're going to have to face Bret the Hitman Hart. He's not in a real good frame of mind these days. In 1 week's time in a Boston...
Ooh, gotta love the event centers, and it won't be long. I'm pretty sure by the time we hear the event centers next time around, it's going to be a new voice. Sean Mooney going to be hosting that segment. But right now, we go off to the Boston Garden, televised on the New England Sports Network. Commentators here, Gorilla Monsoon and Lord Alfred Hayes. As we kick things off, both nights, similar results, as I said, in Hershey and Boston. It's Scott Casey over Iron Mike Sharp with the Crucifix. The Rougeau Brothers defeating the Killer Bees. Battle of the Babyfaces? I don't know about that. Raymond Rougeau going to score the pin on Jim Brunzell after Brunzell scooping Ray up for a slam. Jacques coming off the middle rope with a double axe handle on Brunzell, causing him to fall backwards. Ray Rougeau landing on top, and the Rougeau brothers stealing the pinfall win there over the Killer Bees. Also on the card, Frenchie Martin pinning Jerry Allen with his feet on the ropes. Pete Doherty, Duke of Dorchester, scoring a win over Special Delivery Jones with a roll-up. I believe these last two matches only took place in Boston, by the way, guys. Also on the card, we've got Jake Roberts scheduled to take on Greg Valentine. Rick Rude going one-on-one with the Birdman Koko B. And right now, before we get to those results, we're going to go backstage to live interviews from the Boston Garden. Gorilla Monsoon conducting them with the likes of the Birdman, the Ravishing One, and the Hammer.
Gorilla Monsoon here in the catacombs of the Boston Garden with Koko Beware and his mascot Frankie set for the big meeting here in Beantown against the Ravishing One, Ravishing Rick Rude.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Gorilla. You know, I'm all fired up, brother. I'm all fired up. Frankie's fired up. The fans is fired up because everybody been asking me and say, Birdman, when you going to stop Rick Rude going around kissing on these girls, going around shaking his little booty all around? Well, brother, tonight, it's the night, Rick Rude. So get ready, brother, because I'm going to put you down, brother. Pile driver!
Pile driver indeed. That and the Rude Awakening, something that I'm sure Koko Beware is going to have to keep an eye on. That Ghostbuster of yours can compare.
Whoa, I'm going to tell you one thing, brother. He's got the Rude Awakening. Well, he's sure not going to kiss me, and I guarantee you that, Rick Rude. But you better pick on somebody else you want to kiss, because I got something for you, brother, that Ajax won't take off. And that's
I don't trust Ravishing Rick Rude. He's liable to try anything. We'll be right back at you. Gorilla Monsoon here with Ravishing Rick Rude, minus Bobby the Brain Heenan, the Weasel. Before we get into tonight's bout, Rick, I'd like to just clear the air a little bit. You sort of bit off a little bit more than you could chew when you picked on the wife of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Now, Monsoon, how do you know how much Ravishing Rick Rude can chew?
Well, it's obvious.
I have a much bigger appetite than you could imagine. The fact of the matter is, Jake Roberts' woman wanted me. I seen the gleam in her eye. She wanted me, Monsoon, just like every other woman in the world.
Can we expect to see one form or the other of the Rude Awakening here tonight in the Garden?
Well, let me tell you this, Monsoon. You might see both forms of the Rude Awakening. One for sure, because Koko Ware is going down. And then maybe, just maybe, if I'm feeling simply ravishing, a lucky lady is in for the treat of her lifetime. You know, when a woman kisses me, Monsoon, she doesn't close her eyes. She stares me dead in the eye because she wants to see what ravishing is all about.
Can you believe it? We'll be right back. Gorilla Monsoon once again in the interview area here in Beantown in Boston Garden with one of the most devastating, one of the most terminal men in all of professional wrestling, referring to the Hammer Valentine, a man who has put many men out of professional wrestling, sealed a casket on the career of Chief Jay Strongbow for one.
And Tito Santana, he's never been the same. Nobody is ever the same. Gorilla Monsoon, once the figure four is applied by the master, Greg the Hammer Valentine, which Jake the Snake tonight is going to find out.
Have you ever had that python wrapped around your kisser?
Listen.
Obviously not.
Obviously not. Any man that would carry a snake on an airplane with him, carry him to his hotel room, sleep with a snake, take a snake to the ring has got to be the slimiest, dirtiest, nastiest person in professional wrestling. And no way is he ever going to embarrass the Hammer with a snake. All he's going to feel is the wrath of a figure four leg lock.
Coming at you in a moment.
All right, so there you hear it. We hear from 3 of the 4 combatants in the next 2 matches, as it's going to be Jake the Snake Roberts scoring a win over Greg Valentine with the DDT, and then from there, Ravishing Rick Rude pinning Birdman Koko Beware with the Rude Awakening. Now, post-match, Rick Rude going to continue with that other Rude Awakening, the kiss with one of the ladies in the crowd, looking for a woman to pull inside the ring, but instead, he's greeted by Jake the Snake Roberts, who appears ringside and chases the Ravishing One backstage. Not going to let him get his smooch on here at the Boston Garden as we continue on. Also on the card, what a loaded card. Andre the Giant over Hacksaw Jim Duggan on a countout. Again, Andre blasting Duggan with his own 2x4. We've still got 3 matches left here tonight, guys, including the tag team titles and Intercontinental title on the line. But first, it's the Hitman Bret Hart taking on Bad News Brown. And right now we go backstage one more time. Gorilla Monsoon standing by with the Hitman.
Gorilla Monsoon once again in the interview area with the Hitman, Bret, the Hitman Hart of the Hart Foundation. And Bret, why don't you give us a little insight here, a little inside information. We all saw what went down in WrestleMania 4, but nobody knows exactly what did Bad News say to you in the ring. Did he say, let's team up and let's do a number on this guy?
He said that we were going to split this thing together. If we put our heads together, we could win this thing between ourselves. And that's exactly what I thought. All we had to do was eliminate the Junkyard Dog. If he wanted to go toe-to-toe with me, all he had to do was say so.
Then he decided to double-cross you.
That he double-crossed me, and there's nothing lower. There's absolutely nothing lower than a double-crosser, and that's exactly what he is.
You weren't taught that down in your dad's dungeon, were you?
I've been in the dungeon, Gino. I think you've been in the dungeon. Yes. I've been in the dungeon. This guy, he may be a big brawler, a street fighter, but that doesn't scare the Hitman. The Hitman is a technical wrestler, and a technical wrestler can beat a brawler any day.
I'll put my money on that. The Hitman looking to get Bad News in just a moment.
All right, so Bret Hart getting it right this time. Bad News Brown, not a double cross, but rather it was the Hitman who was double crossed. So I'm glad we got that straight, Bret. As we go back to the ring, it is Bret the Hitman Hart battling Bad News Brown to it was supposed to be, I believe, a 20-minute time limit draw, but the match goes about something like 17 minutes. We won't nitpick. Also on the card, tag team champions Demolition over Strikeforce. Smash going to score the win over Tito after Fuji throwing salt in the eyes of Santana. And then in the final match of the night, Jimmy Hart banned from ringside. It's the Intercontinental Champion, Honky Tonk Man, with Peggy Sue defeating Brutus Beefcake on a countout after Peggy grabbing the challenger by his hair, preventing him from re-entering the ring, causing the countout loss here. But then post-match, Beefcake realizing that that's no lady at all. Beefer going to rip the wig off, rip the clothes off of old Peggy Sue here. Don't get excited, guys. Peggy Sue, actually, Jimmy Hart in drag. So the Barber having some fun there with Jimmy Hart post-match, but Honky Tonk will retain on a countout. As we continue on May 8th at the Broome County Arena in front of 3,500 fans. Same card also May 9th at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Going to see Mike Sharp over Scott Casey and Scott Casey over Mike Sharp. Also, Rougeau Brothers continuing to defeat the Killer Bees. It's Rick Rude over Koko Beware. Jake Roberts pinning Greg Valentine with that DDT. Andre over Duggan on a countout. Haku and High Chief Afi scoring a win over Don Morocco and Hillbilly Jim. Still can't get over that team. Also, the Ultimate Warrior pinning Iron Mike Sharp. Sharp subbing in for the Mighty Hercules here. It was the Ultimate Warrior pinning Hercules who bothered to show up in East Rutherford anyway. Reportedly, Warrior over Herc with the Gorilla Press and the Big Splash. Would have liked to have seen that. Now also, Brutus Beefcake scoring a win over the Honky Tonk Man on a DQ. Peggy Sue, a.k.a. Jimmy Hart and Drag, interfering there. Now that's what happened in Binghamton, but the following day in the Meadowlands, it was Honky Tonk again over the Barber on a countout. As we roll on to Green Bay, Wisconsin at the Brown County Arena, May the 9th, Jose Luis Rivera over Barry Horowitz, Steve Lombardi defeating Brady Boone. It's Bam Bigelow over the one-man gang, Dino Bravo downing Ken Patera, the Hitman Bret Hart scoring a win, reportedly, over Bad News Brown, and that may be the only one, so we'll keep an eye on that. Also, Strikeforce over Demolition on a disqualification, and in the main event, Macho Man Randy Savage defending his title successfully, once again pinning the $1 Million Man. As we roll on, a couple of nights here, it looks like, another Seatown pair of events. Norwalk, Connecticut at the high school on May the 10th. Also, Cheshire, Massachusetts at the Hoosick Valley High School. So a couple of high school cards here, May 10th and 11th. Going to see Iron Mike Sharp over Outback Jack using that loaded forearm brace. Writings on the wall there. Outback Jack doing the job to Iron Mike Sharp. Also on the card, leaping Lanny Poffo over George Scotland with the moonsault. Jerry Allen defeating Jose Estrada. The Killer Bees scoring a win over Haku and High Chief Afi in Norwalk, Connecticut. The following day, it's the Bees over Haku and Iron Mike Sharp in Cheshire. Also on the card, Jim Neidhart scoring a win over George Steele on a DQ. And in the main event, they continue to work the finale here on a lot of the C shows. It's Bam Bigelow over the one-man gang as we roll on to May the 10th, a Superstars taping in Duluth, Minnesota at the Entertainment Convention Center in front of a sellout 7,000 fans here May the 10th. And the dark matches, it's Ken Patera over Dino Bravo on a DQ in a tug-of-war contest. Going to see Frenchie Martin interfere in that one. Now, post-match, Patera going to actually clear the ring this time. Not going to get beaten down for once. It's Jake the Snake Roberts pinning Rick Rude in a dark match here in Duluth. Also, WWF Champion Randy Savage over Ted Dibiase. Dibiase colliding with Virgil on the apron. Savage with the roll-up and defeats the $1 Million Man. And again, it's Andre the Giant over Jim Duggan on that count-out. Man, how many times can you hit a man with a 2x4? Talk about CTE. A couple other matches that will air on international versions of Wrestling Challenge include, listen to this one, Koko Beware getting a little revenge here, pinning Bobby the Brain Heenan. Heenan missing a shoulder charge in the corner, and Koko going to score the win. That's a familiar finish. Must be a Bobby Heenan finish. He's going to use that again against Terry Taylor at WrestleMania 5. Also, as part of International Wrestling Challenge, a matchup featuring the Barber, Brutus Beefcake, over Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man by DQ after interference from manager Jimmy Hart. The following night, May the 11th, in front of 6,000 fans, Rochester, Minnesota, at the Mayo Civic Center. Again, challenge tapings here. Some of the dark matches include Joe LeDuc over an unknown in a squash match. Big Boss Man defeating yet another unknown name. It's Koko Beware defeating Bobby Heenan once again. The Barber over Honky Tonk by DQ. Jake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick. Andre over Duggan with that epic countout. And the Macho Man again pinning the $1 Million Man. So similar dark matches both nights here for both sets of tapings. As we go on, wow, 4 nights in a row, similar cards, guys. Talking May the 12th in Erie, Pennsylvania, in front of only 1,000 fans at the Civic Center. The following night, May the 13th, Buffalo, New York, at the Memorial Auditorium. Then from there, May 14th, Hartford, Connecticut, at the Civic Center in front of 5,000 fans. And lastly, May 15th, Rochester, New York, at the War Memorial. And you'll see lots of similar matches, but lots of back and forth booking as well. 50-50 booking here over these 4 nights of events. As some nights it's going to be Mike Sharp over Scott Casey, or Scott Casey over Mike Sharp. Brady Boone defeating Steve Lombardi, or Lombardi over Boone. It's JYD pinning Outlaw Ron Bass, or Ron Bass defeating the Junkyard Dog. Bret Hart battling Bad News Brown to a double countout some nights. Other nights it's Bad News pinning the Hitman. Down goes Bret Hart to Bad News Brown. Also on the card, definitive wins all 4 nights for Sherri over Desiree Peterson. Strikeforce over Demolition on a DQ. The Warrior pinning the Mighty Hercules. Andre over Hacksaw on a countout. And a similar matchup, going to take the 2 singles matches and make it into a tag team match in Buffalo. Going to see the team of the Ultimate Warrior and Jim Duggan score a win over Andre the Giant and the Mighty Hercules. And you got to believe Hercules did the job there in Buffalo. As we continue on, May 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, once again, 4 nights in a row, similar results in Columbus, Georgia, the Municipal Auditorium, 3,600 fans, Savannah, Georgia, Civic Center, Palmetto, Florida at the Manatee Civic Center, and Kissimmee, Florida at the Tupperware Convention Center. Well, that was new to me. So that is May 12th through the 15th. Going to see Joe LeDuc over Lanny Poffo, the Big Boss Man defeat Jose Luis Rivera. It's Greg the Hammer Valentine over Outback Jack with the figure 4. Sam Houston scoring a win over Danny Davis every night with the Bulldog. The Young Stallions mostly going over the Bolsheviks here, but also time limit draws. No, thank you. I don't care which team wins. Just please don't go to the time limit. Young Stallions and Bolsheviks every night. I don't know. Also on the cards, it was Dino Bravo over Ken Patera, and in the main event, Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man defeating Brutus Beefcake on a countout. So they continue to protect the Barber here in these IC title matches heading into the summer months. As we continue on again, May 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, another set of results here for another troop, and this looks like it's the A Troop, the world title on the line on these cards. In Winnipeg, Manitoba, the old Winnipeg Arena in front of 4,000 fans. Omaha, Nebraska, Civic Auditorium in front of 7,280 fans. Springfield, Illinois at the old Prairie Capital Convention Center. And lastly, Chicago and the Rosemont Horizon. 8,500 fans all out to see the Rougeau Brothers over the Killer Bees. Don Morocco subbing in every night for Bam Bigelow. And it's Morocco over the one-man gang. George the Animal Steele defeating Jim Neidhart on a countout. The Birdman, Koko Beware, pinning Bobby the Brain Heenan. It's Haku and High Chief Afi still here, scoring a win over Hillbilly Jim, subbing again for Steamboat, and his partner Don Morocco. Now in Chicago at the Rosemont, Bam Bam does finally return on the fourth night of this little tour, and it's going to be the gang pinning Bam Bigelow. Somebody is in the doghouse. Needless to say at this point, Bammer doing the job after he returns once again. No doubt something to do with that bum knee of his, maybe both knees at this point. And then from there, two more big matches. Going to see Jake the Snake Roberts and Ravishing Rick Rude go to a double countout all 4 nights, and also Macho Man Randy Savage scoring a win, pinning the $1 Million Man. Savage retaining his championship gold. As we roll on to, 5 shows, 5 nights, similar cards, can't beat this. May 19th through the 23rd. Includes shows in Kansas City, Missouri at the Municipal Auditorium, 5,000 fans. St. Louis, Missouri at the Kiel Auditorium for 3,700 fans. Cape Girardeau, Missouri at the Show Me Center, plus Denver, Colorado at the Auditorium, 8,500 fans. And Colorado Springs, Colorado at the City Auditorium. And the card looked like this. Scott Casey over Barry Horowitz, also Horowitz over Casey. George Steele defeating Mr. Fuji on a countout every night. It's the Ultimate Warrior pinning the Mighty Hercules. Jim Neidhart over Hillbilly Jim. Strikeforce defeating Demolition on a DQ. Sensational Sherri retaining her women's championship over Rockin' Robin now on this 5-night trip. Also the one-man gang continuing to pin Bam Bigelow each and every night. That'll show you to take time off, Bammer. And in the main event, Randy Savage pinning Dibiase. The $1 Million Man continuing to collide with Virgil on the apron. Savage with the Schoolboy retaining his title. You'd figure by now Dibiase and Virgil would come up with a new way to try to put down the Macho Man. But there we are, 5 nights in a row. Macho Man and company. That was the A card. Jim Neidhart and Hillbilly Jim. Whew. Also, 5 nights in a row, May 19th through the 23rd as well. Another troop of guys out to New Washington, Ohio at the Central High School. Wheeling, West Virginia at the Civic Center. Johnstown, Pennsylvania at the Cambria County War Memorial. Battle Creek, Michigan at the old Kellogg Center. And Gary, Indiana at the Genesis Convention Center. Out to see the Big Boss Man over Jose Luis Rivera with what will come to be known as the Boss Man Slam. It's also Sam Houston over Danny Davis every night with the Bulldog. Dino Bravo continuing to defeat Ken Patera. This time, we're back to the forfeit deal. Bravo attacking Patera during an arm wrestling contest prior to the match, laying him out, deeming Patera unable to compete in the matchup. Bravo scoring the win, which is, again, better for us all. Also on those cards, Joe LeDuc defeating Leaping Lanny Poffo. Brutus Beefcake over IC champion Honky Tonk Man by DQ. Jimmy Hart continuing to dress and drag. You'd think by now the Hart would know that the barber has figured this out. Also on the cards, it's the Bolsheviks over the Killer Bees. So you see where the Bees are right now. They've been doing the jobs to the Rougeaus. We know what's going on with the Rougeau brothers. We won't get into that just yet because I want it to develop as we continue to tell the story. But the Bolsheviks have also been losing some to the Young Stallions. However, they're defeating the Killer Bees. So it kind of shows you where the Bees are right now in the WWF pecking order of things. And every night also on this 5-night tour, Junkyard Dog over the Outlaw Ron Bass. And one final piece of 5-night business. And again, May 19th through the 23rd. So 5 nights in a row, all 3 troops, the A team, the B team, the C shows. Similar cards, and that's no different here. May 19th, Worcester, Mass. at the Centrum. May 20th, Portland, Maine at the Civic Center. 5,500 fans there. May 21st, Jamie Ward Country, the Philadelphia Spectrum. May 22nd, Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens. And May 23rd, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the Forum. And a couple of these shows, lots of the matches are out there. They've been, of course, the Spectrum show televised on the Prism Network. Going to feature Dick Graham and newcomer announcer, at least to the WWF, Rodger Kent on commentary there for the Spectrum show. Lots of the Maple Leaf Garden matches also out there, featuring Gorilla Monsoon and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary, and right now we're going to look into the results. But before we do, I got several sound bites lined up. Going to go back to Mean Gene Okerlund and the Event Center once again, listening to several upcoming matches to take place at the Spectrum. And right now we're going to hear from the likes of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Rock Don Morocco, Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Islanders, the Young Stallions, Bret the Hitman Hart, Andre the Giant, and manager Bobby Heenan.
All right, hi again, Philadelphia. Gene Okerlund back at the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. Spectrum, big date coming up Saturday night, May the 21st, and a big card to go along with that big date. There's going to be a six-man tag. The British Bulldogs and Koko B are squaring off against the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan. By the way, a footnote to that six-man tag. Bobby the Brain Heenan, unlike WrestleMania 4, will not be allowed to wear any protective or padded clothing. He's going to have to come out, and who knows, if Matilda's there, she could get a piece of his action, if you know what I mean. Also, Hacksaw Jim Duggan going to be in town one-on-one against Andre the Giant. I was at the airport here in Philadelphia. Somebody walked up to me and gave me the finger. Hacksaw Jim Duggan walked up to me and gave me this thumb. Tough guy, ho! All right, very good. Speaking of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he had these comments about his upcoming bout.
It wasn't that long ago. Bang! The big giant went down. Old Hacksaw doing some giant hunting. And then old Hacksaw having his way in the ring. And who sticks their nose in my business? The giant again. But once I had a hold of my board, well, you seemed pretty scarce. You kind of dragged your freight back to the back. So next time coming up, well, I'll put my 2x4 in the corner. And if you want to have a wrestling match, if you want to have a fight, that's fine with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But let me tell you something, Giant. If that weasel gets in your ear and tells you to pull some funny stuff, understand, 2x4 in the corner, and I can keep an eye on you and an eye back here, too, tough guy. Ho!
All right, Hacksaw Jim Duggan to meet the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, only one of a kind, thank goodness. The Rougeaus are going to be facing the Young Stallions here May 21st.
You know, it's not every day that the Young Stallions put their name on a contract and wrestle against a good, clean, scientific team. And that's who we're going against, the FABULOUS Rougeau Brothers from Canada, one of Canada's premier tag teams. And we're looking forward to this match.
Yeah, you know, it'll be a good scientific match. And I'll tell you what, they're a tough team. They're a good team. They're a very clean team. And it's going to be a feather in our cap to score a victory over a great team like the Rougeau Brothers.
Absolutely.
All right, hallelujah! Spectrum in Philadelphia, we're back Saturday night, May 21st. All right, get ready, fans up and down the Delaware Valley. We're going to be returning to the Spectrum here in Philadelphia Saturday night, May the 21st. A tremendous card. I know a lot of folks from the Atlantic City area are going to be heading into town of May 21st. You know that Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to be facing Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the world. Of course, Andre now, once again, being managed by Bobby Heenan. Big one-on-one. Greg the Hammer Valentine to meet the Rock, Don Morocco.
Just let me say one thing, that the hammer cannot break the rock, brother, because the rock is made out of solid steel. Look at the mass, look at the power, and look at the eyes. The eyes tell you he's got the will to win and to overcome, and he's got the power to back it up, brother.
You know, Greg Valentine, I know you over the years. None has been finer, none has lasted longer, none gets better but me. I keep getting better and better and finer and finer. Hammer, it's power driver time with Superstar in the corner.
All right. You know, Superstar, you want to make fun of the mouth of the South with my new hairdo? Well, just remember, we'll get the last laugh, right, Hammer?
Yeah, take a look at yourself, Superstar Graham, walking around, you cripple. And I'll tell you what, your main man, Magnificent Morocco from the Hawaiian Islands, the man that gets up here and flexes and poses, well, let me tell you something. He's going to go down and feel the pain and the wrath of the hammer, because the hammer will shatter the rock, and the figure four leg lock will prevail, Superstar Graham and Morocco.
All right, a couple of former Intercontinental champions meeting there. Greg the Hammer Valentine, Don the Rock Morocco. Six-man tag. The British Bulldogs and Koko B will have Matilda in the corner when they face the Islanders, Haku and Tama, and their manager partner, Bobby Heenan.
You know, I just had an interesting thought come across my mind. What's going to happen, let's say we take out Dynamite, okay? And then Davy Boy, who are you going to tag? Who are you going to look for help?
Well, which one is which?
because they all look the same, like Matilda.
That's right. They're pretty ugly, aren't they? These are good-looking guys.
That's right. Come on, Bulldog. We would love to beat you boys again.
Oh, Matilda might be at ringside, or is going to be at ringside. I may be, too.
All right, Islanders, Bobby Heenan, no protective clothing, no padded suit or anything, Bobby Heenan. You're going to have to watch out for this little lady. She is Matilda, mascot for the British Bulldogs. She's going to be in their corner on May 21. All right, we're back here in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, Saturday night, the 21st of May. Bret the Hitman Hart met Bad News Brown in the finals of the Invitational Battle Royal. A double cross took place in Atlantic City, but this time it's one-on-one.
Listen here, Bad News Brown. In WrestleMania 4, the whole world got to see what Bad News is all about. And I know personally firsthand that you are nothing but a double cross. And the Hitman, the greatest professional technical wrestler of all time, has been pushed too far this time. I'm not saying I'm the most popular guy in the world, but let me tell you something right now, Bad News Brown. When you get in the ring with me, it's going to be all Hitman, back and forth, and it's going to be payback time.
All right, Bret the Hitman Hart, well aware of what happened the last time he met Bad News Brown, and that could be bad news for you, bad news. Andre the Giant standing by. He's going to be meeting Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
You know something, you white-socked-wearing buffoon? I'm talking about you, Duggan. Yeah, you and those humanoids you hang out with. You and those humanoids you like to help you. That's what I'm talking about. Those thousands and thousands of people that go, hey, hey. Well, they're going to be yelling, all right. It's going to be yelling, help, help. The Giant is tearing him apart. Help him. There's going to be nobody there to help you, except this man.
Nobody will go to help you, Duggan. Because I'm undefeated, and everybody know I'm still undefeated. And that's why everybody's so scared of me, and that's why you're so stupid to did what you did. But that's why now I want you to go back in the ring. Take that 2x4 with you. Take anything you want.
All right, what a showdown that should be between Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the world, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, tough guy. Ho! Oh, I like that. Oh, Hacksaw, I don't mind telling you, you can pick. Give me a little bit of that tough guy, huh? He's got it. He's got the thumb, and he's got Andre the Giant, part of the sensational card that is slated for the Spectrum here in Philadelphia on Saturday night, May the 21st, from top to bottom, a great one. The Bulldogs, Koko B going up against the Islanders and Bobby Heenan without the uniform, no padded or protective clothing. Bret Hart, Bad News Brown, The Rock, Don Morocco to meet Greg the Hammer Valentine, Young Stallions, and the Rougeaus, all here in Philadelphia out at the Spectrum Saturday, May 21st.
Gotta love the old event center promos there, guys. Lots of the talent getting ready for the big matchups here in all 5 arenas, but most specifically the Maple Leaf Gardens and, of course, the Philly Spectrum. And the results look like this. Jerry Allen over Steve Lombardi with the sunset flip. It's the Rougeaus defeating the Young Stallions, this time Raymond Rougeau or Jacques, depending on the night, pinning Jimmy Powers after he's dropped rope first across the top rope. Kind of an aggressive finish there. Now, some nights, and we'll see this coming up later as well, it was a inside cradle by Jimmy Powers, leading to the illegal Rougeau coming in and sneaking in and switching it over, rolling their brother on top to steal the win. So the Rougeaus starting to use some chicanery here to gain some wins. But it is certainly helping their win-loss record, no doubt about that. Also on the cards, Rock Don Morocco over Greg the Hammer Valentine on a DQ. Morocco going to do one of his famous spots here where he gets his head caught between the top and middle rope, and Valentine going to be relentless going after the head, the neck area of Don Morocco, drawing the DQ, giving The Rock the win, and maybe we have a feud coming in the not-so-distant future here between the Hammer and The Rock. Also on the card, 6-man tag team action, Haku and High Chief Afi teaming with manager Bobby Heenan over the British Bulldogs and Koko B. Heenan continuing to defeat the Birdman using a foreign object to knock out the Birdman from behind, and the heel's going to steal the win. Now, a little bit different 6-man tag most of the nights, except for in Toronto. Going to split things up here. It's going to be the British Bulldogs in tag team action over Haku and High Chief Afi. And then in singles competition, it's Bobby Heenan pinning Koko B. continuing to use that foreign object. But now we go back to the Philly Spectrum. In fact, we go all the way backstage to Killer Kal Rudman. He's standing by with a few men for some upcoming matches on the second half of the card. Right now, we're going to hear from Bad News Brown talking about his upcoming match with the Hitman Bret Hart. We're also going to hear from Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He has Andre on the other side of this. And last but certainly not least, Ravishing Rick Rude, who has the snake.
Killer Cal here in the interview area, about to interview Bad News Brown, 270 pounds from Harlem, making his debut in the Spectrum after 10 years in wrestling, and the man whom you saw win the Battle Royal in WrestleMania. And he fights Bret Hitman Hart, who's a bit lighter.
I don't care if he's a bit lighter. I don't care if he's a bit shorter. He did something that nobody does to me. He took my trophy after I won it fair and square, legal like a true sportsman in the Battle Royal at the last WrestleMania 4, and he destroyed it. Now, this idiot's walking around here with that spruce pink on, thinking that he's going to climb into the ring with me tonight, and he thinks that he's going to win. Well, I got another story for you, because you better have your popcorn, you better have your brownie camera at the ready, because this is not going to be long, and it's not going to be pretty. Because I guarantee you one thing, when I climb into that ring with him, I'm going to mutilate him, I'm going to annihilate him, and I'm going to downright assassinate him and make him pay for the day and make him regret the day that he was born.
Well, there's no question in my mind that you are one of the toughest men in the world of wrestling, and now in the World Wrestling Federation.
Let's get one thing straight. Not one of the toughest, but the toughest, the number one toughest. The rest of them are under me. I'm up here, they down here, and they know it because I've come to the WWF here, and I have not been defeated. I have beaten everybody that's come across my path, and that winning tradition that I have will continue tonight.
Okay. Man talks good game, and he's proved it so far. Let's see what he does tonight. We'll be right back to see it. Killer Kal Rudman here in the interview area, and we have coming into the camera's view, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Watch out for them lights. Watch out for them cameras. You know, Killer, I come stomping on in here. I start knocking things over because that's just the way I am.
You weigh 275 pounds. You're going to fight a man that's 500 pounds. But you're the only man in the world of wrestling.
You better believe it.
Who has knocked him unconscious.
Knocked him unconscious. Yes, I did. Knocked him colder than a wedge. It was like being in a giant redwood forest, chopping away at a tree, and all of a sudden, timber! That big old giant went down for the first time in history. Old Hacksaw, I grabbed my 2x4, I held it up high, I took my thumb, ho! And the whole crowd got going, got me kind of pumped up like I am tonight.
What's your strategy for tonight?
Attack! 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 Understand one thing, Giant. You've been in the ring with a lot of people, and you've pushed them around. You've intimidated them. But understand one thing. Hacksaw Jim Duggan does not fear you. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is not afraid of you. And by God, when I come in that ring, this 2x4 will be in my corner. Bring your large frame down, and we'll just see what kind of heart you've got. Tough guy.
Suppose he grabs the 2x4.
Grabs my board, understand one thing. All you folks understand one thing. This is my board. It stays in my corner where I can keep my good eye on it. I got my bad eye on the big giant. He's not too hard to find, you know. Kind of the eighth wonder of the world. 7'5", 500 pounds. But you know in your heart, Giant, as I stared you in the eye, that I wasn't afraid of you. He knew that I'm just going to chip away, start chopping him down, and it's going to happen tonight.
You got the eye of the tiger, huh?
I don't know if I got the eye of the tiger or the heart of the tiger, but I understand one thing, or excuse me, understand one thing. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's got desire. Hacksaw Jim Duggan has got the fans behind him, and that's all it's going to take. Because you can knock me down, Giant. You can beat me up. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll crawl out of the ashes. I'll get up off the floor, and I'll keep coming for you. And I'll keep coming for you. And I'll keep coming for you until you lie down and my hand's raised high.
We're going to see what happens. We'll be right back. Killer Kal Rudman here in the interview area, and I have with me two gentlemen. Ravishing Rick Rude, 250 pounds from the Twin Cities of St. Paul, Minneapolis, and his brilliant manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. And I think there's a score that needs to be settled with Jake the Snake.
Well, you know, if you think about it,
his wife was sitting ringside. Now, we know why she was sitting ringside. He had to bring her and put her at ringside because the last thing he wants to do is leave home not knowing who's going to come visit.
What do you want to know, little man? The little man here wants to know what you're going to do with this real tough guy, Jake the Snake Roberts. Are we going to end up watching that snake crawling all around your neck? Because you're very, very pretty. You're very, very handsome. And if you took your...
to say the least.
Robe off, yes. And to say the most. And if you took your robe off, they'd really see your body, which they're going to see in a ring, too.
Well, if I took my robe off, little man, you could understand why I wouldn't be worried about the snake. Maybe I'd wrap my arms around the snake and squeeze it to death.
You know, the funny thing is Jake Roberts, he can't even control his wife. How is he going to control this man? And I'm saying M-A-N. This is a man, Jake. You see, what you don't understand is you're nothing but a punk. You want to hang around with serpents? You want to hang around with loose ladies? That's your business. You're not going to control this man. Never happened.
That's right, Bobby. You know, the fact of the matter is I was too much of a man for Jake's old lady, and I'm too much of a man for Jake. And all you fellas out there, you know why your ladies have their eyes closed when they kiss you? Because they're thinking of Ravishing Rick Rude. All my women stare me dead in the eye when I lay one on them.
But you're being too modest. After they kiss you, they hear this. That's another sound you hear. So you people never hear that. You hang around the Ravishing Rick Rude, you will hear that.
Well, I tell you, I'm looking forward to this match because Jake Roberts is a good wrestler, or at least he has been so far, and I want to see what this guy can do in the squared circle.
We might even do the Rude Awakening to the Snake.
Yeah, it's a thought, Bobby.
It's a thought.
We'll be right back.
Killer Kal, what great promos there. Miss Kal Rudman conducting the promos here at the Philly Spectrum. Miss Kal Rudman on commentary, for that matter. What a fun character, Killer Kal. As we go back to the ring, we heard from some of the talent involved in the upcoming matches. Let's see what happens, shall we? Hitman Bret Hart battling Bad News Brown to a 20-minute time limit draw. Match goes about 18 minutes, actually. Hitman asking for 5 more minutes post-match, but Bad News refusing, and it's going to remain a draw there. Also, Andre over Big Jim Duggan on a count-out. Boy, that 2x4 getting a lot of use here. The Giant once again knocking Hacksaw out with the board. From there, it's Jake the Snake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick Rude with a reverse roll-up. Now, post-match, Rude attacking the Snake Man, laying him out, but he takes a little too long to pose for the fans, and out comes Damien, wrapped around the Ravishing one to end the segment. Now, the only night we have a different finish or a different matchup, once again, Maple Leaf Gardens changing it up a little, taking a couple of the singles matches, turning it into a big tag team main event. Jake Roberts and Jim Duggan over the team of Ravishing Rick Rude and Andre the Giant. Jake again pinning Rude as Rude was getting ready to land that Rude Awakening neckbreaker. It was Hacksaw Jim Duggan sliding into the ring with his trusty 2x4, using it on Ravishing Rick, allowing the Snake Man to score the win for the babyface team there. Fun match in Toronto. Fun matches all around. And speaking of fun cards, it really doesn't get better. The New York City's Madison Square Garden, May 27th, 16,000 fans. Televised on the MSG network, included Rodger Kent. Remember, he's here now. And listen to this. Color commentator for this one, Superstar Billy Graham. And I do believe this may be Graham's debut as color commentator here in the WWF, as his time as manager rapidly coming to a close, just not able to get around well on his hips. Of course, the Superstar underwent that hip replacement surgery, and the pain and struggle to get around very noticeable on TV. So he's kind of being positioned here into a commentary situation. We'll have to see how that plays out over the next few months here in the WWF. But it is Rodger Kent and Billy Graham. What a commentary team. As we see the Conquistador over SD Jones, the Masked Man going to turn a crossbody over. The momentum of SD rolling Conquistador on top to steal the win there. Also, Greg Valentine over George Steele on a DQ after Steele bringing the Timekeeper's hammer into the ring. And when the referee gets between the two men, the Animal also going to shove the referee down, thus causing the DQ. Hammer going to go over there. Also, Rougeau Brothers again over the Young Stallions. Powers with that small package I was talking about on Jacques Rougeau here. Raymond Rougeau sneaking in behind the ref's back, reversing the inside cradle, rolling his brother Jacques on top to steal the win. Clean fight my ass, eh, Stallions? Also, Brutus Beefcake battling the one-man gang to a double countout. The Beefer going to lock in his sleeper hold on the gang, both men tumbling over the top rope to the outside, where they are then counted out. Now, post-match, the Barber actually going to go after his scissors and cut a little bit of that mohawk off of the top of the gang's head. Give the fans something anyway, eh, Brudi? Six-man tag team action, Haku, High Chief Afi, and Bobby Heenan over the team of the Bulldogs and Koko B. Heenan continuing to defeat the Birdman with a pair of brass knuckles. Then from there, Iron Mike Sharp over Jerry Allen with a big elbow drop. Put a lot of thought into that finish. And then we set up for the big WWF Championship match before intermission. It's the Macho Man, the undisputed WWF Champion Randy Savage, with the lovely Miss Elizabeth here at the Garden, scheduled to take on this man. Lord Alfred Hayes standing by right now with the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lord Alfred Hayes. My guest right now in the locker room area is the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. Shortly, he's going for the gold. $1 Million Man, you look very, very confident to me right now, but there's one thought you should bear in mind. When you get into that ring against Randy Macho Man Savage, all the money in the world is not going to help you then.
Listen, little man, let me tell you something. Let me tell all you people something. There's nothing in the world that my money can't buy. There's nothing in the world my money won't buy. But I'm not here, Randy Savage, to buy you. And I can. I can buy you. I can buy anybody. I'm here to beat you, Savage. Because not only am I the wealthiest wrestler in the world, I am the best wrestler in the world, and I will not be denied again. First there was WrestleMania 4, then it was the last time I faced you right here in the Garden. When the smoke cleared and the dust settled, Savage, my hand was raised in victory, and you snuck out with the belt.
We'll be back with the Rock Don Morocco right after this.
All right, Dibiase primed and ready for his championship match coming out of WrestleMania 4, but it is the Macho Man scoring the win over the $1 Million Man by DQ, Virgil interfering here, preventing a pinfall after Savage drove Dibiase headfirst into an exposed steel turnbuckle corner. Now, post-match, Savage getting double-teamed by Virg and Dibiase, tossed to the outside, but Macho Man returning to the ring with his championship belt, running the heels off. And then it's celebration time as the Macho Man putting Elizabeth up on his shoulders, we've seen so many times in recent months. But something different happens here, and I wish they had saved this for TV because I really like the visual. Savage with Elizabeth held high on his shoulder. It's Dibiase and Virgil returning from behind, attacking the Macho Man, causing him to drop Elizabeth. Don't worry, guys, she landed on her feet, even in heels. But a great visual there. The heels didn't care what happened to Liz. They attacked the champion from behind. And of course, the incensed WWF champion chasing the heels backstage, looking for revenge. No doubt a return match on both men's mind there. As speaking of returning, at least to ringside, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan, who comes back out to gloat after defeating Koko B once again here tonight, after also defeating the Birdman at WrestleMania 4. I guess you could say Bobby Heenan on cloud 9 right now. He feels like he can beat anybody. And this may be the only time I question his nickname, The Brain, because Bobby Heenan comes back to ringside and announces that he has signed an open contract to face anyone next month right here at Madison Square Garden. Ugh, be careful what you wish for, Bobby. More on that before we finish this episode. As we go backstage once again, several promos coming up with his lordship Alfred Hayes conducting. We're going to hear from the Rock Don Morocco and Superstar Graham. Morocco slated to take on the Anvil. We're also going to hear from Dino Bravo and manager Frenchie Martin. Bravo going to go one-on-one with Ken Patera. And then we're going to hear from the outlaw Ron Bass, who has the Junkyard Dog.
Also his star Billy Graham. Tell me, Morocco, today you're going up against Jim the Anvil Neidhart, but before I say that, let me say that you've referred to your manager as a spiritual advisor and in fact a prophet.
Superstar Billy Graham is the holy man of professional wrestling. He is the prophet of professional wrestling. He is envisioned in myself greatness. He came to me, he said, The Rock. He said, I see greatness in yourself. There may be paths you stumble on. There may be diversions in your field, but I envision in the future. You follow me. You listen to my word. You hear the word of the superstar. And the word of the superstar, see, we are here. We are in the halls of Madison Square Garden, right where this man went to the top, right where this man carried the belt of the WWF so proudly around his waist. That one day, and this place one day, will ring as hollow as my sanctuary. Exactly right, brother, because one day I predict I will answer the people who say, will this man become the world champion? And yes, he will.
Cowboy run by side. This commercial break. Dino Bravo and his very outspoken manager, Frenchie. Dino Bravo, a little while ago, the whole world was watching television and they saw you lose a tug-of-war match to Ken Patera.
You call that a victory for Ken Patera? The man has to be carried out of the ring? You must be paid with a United States check. You must be beyond the United States of America. Patera, the whole world knows you're very strong. But by now, the world knows I'm much stronger than you are. I've proven that in the arm wrestling. I've proven it in the tug of war. And I'm going to prove it right here tonight in Memorial Weekend. Put your nose down to that mat and prove to the wrestling world I'm a much better wrestler than you are. I know you're furious right now. I know you want to get revenge. Well, you're going to lose your cool out there. I'm going to keep mine all the way, Patera. And the strength that I've got, the manager is behind me. You're going to go down, Patera, for the third time in a row.
He lost, Frenchie. You're
not having a nervous breakdown, Patera.
We're going to take you right back to the ringside now, where Rodger Kent is waiting. Ron, back. You are flicking that whip there that you call Miss Betsy, but do you know that now Junkyard Dog, who's your opponent, has a chain that he's named Miss Ruby. He's looking to turn the tables on you.
Let me tell you something, you little lima bean. I want to look forward to the day that Mr. JYD, it's just a few moments now. I want to remind you of something in the past. It didn't take one. It didn't take two. It took 25 people to come to the ring to pull me off of you. Now you've gone out and you've got this old nasty chain and you're calling it Miss Ruby. You said the tables are going to turn and it's even now. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. JYD, the big outlaw. I've got Miss Betsy, and let me tell you something. You're still out, man. You're still outgunned, and it's still going to be my match. And yes, Lima Bean, you can have it back, brother.
Well, they're very, very strong words there.
More fun promos there, live promos during the intermission here at the Garden. As we go back to ringside, it is Jim the Anvil Neidhart over the Rock Don Morocco. Now, Superstar Billy Graham is ringside here. Of course, he had been on commentary, don't forget. Is Morocco attempting to bust out the old Briscoe roll, sunset flip out of the corner? Doesn't quite execute it very well. Nevertheless, the Anvil doesn't go back anyway. He drops down on top, uses the ropes for leverage, and steals the win. The Anvil defeating Don Morocco. I had high hopes for The Rock coming out of WrestleMania, but things don't look good right now as we go on. Speaking of not looking good for people, Ken Patera doing the job here for Dino Bravo. Pinfall loss for the first time in their feud, I do believe. Bravo scoring the win with his patented side suplex, Jess. After Patera distracted by Frenchie Martin up on the ring apron, Dino Bravo hitting his finisher to pin the Olympic strongman here. And then it's time, as customary, before the final match of the night, Howard Finkel in the ring to announce some of the matches for the pending return of the WWF to Madison Square Garden next month. And announced as part of that card, Bobby Heenan, remember he signed that open contract? Well, it's been filled, guys. We now learn that Bobby Heenan will go one-on-one with the Ultimate Warrior. That's right, Bobby Heenan versus the Ultimate Warrior. And it's rumored that the Warrior Man going to be bringing a weasel suit with him. And when he's done with the brain, the Ultimate One says he's going to stuff Bobby Heenan into that weasel suit. And you might imagine this announcement by Howard Finkel causes the Brain to storm back to ringside completely upset. Hey, you issued the challenge, Bobby. I told you, be careful what you ask for. And then to close out the night, it's the JYD Junkyard Dog over the Outlaw Ron Bass. Match goes about 8 minutes, 15 seconds. Bass looking to scoop the dog up for a power slam, and the dog, well, supposed to turn it into an inside cradle. And when I read this finish before I watched the match, I told myself, boy, I can't wait to see how this plays out, because I just can't picture this going smoothly. Well, I was right. Dog somehow does manage to land on top of Bass and score the win there at MSG to close out the night as we go on. Just a handful of shows left here in the month of May, Providence, Rhode Island at the Civic Center. 5,400 fans. Jerry Allen over Mike Sharp. The Rougeaus defeating the Killer Bees. Greg Valentine over George Steele on a DQ. It's a steel cage 6-man tag team matchup. Bobby Heenan, Haku, and High Chief Afi over the Birdman Koko Beware and the British Bulldogs inside a steel cage. Boy, Providence always had the weird matches. But I'm here for it, guys. Last 2 men in the ring, Haku and Davey Boy Smith trying to escape the cage. Smith trying to go through that door. Bobby Heenan slamming the cage door shut on Davey Boy's head, allowing Haku to escape. And the heels going to score the win there in Providence. Also on the card, Jim Neidhart over Don Morocco once again. Dino Bravo pinning Ken Patera. Brutus Beefcake battling the Gang to a double countout. And it's the Macho Man pinning the $1 Million Man. Then we're off May 28th to Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Met Center. 1,850 fans. Wow, that's it. Out to see Lanny Poffo over Barry Horowitz. Brady Boone defeats Steve Lombardi. It's the Warrior over Hercules. Bad News pinning the Hitman Bret Hart, using some ropes for leverage there. Tag Team Champions Demolition over Strikeforce. Santana again pinned after being clocked this time with one of the championship belts. Then from there, IC Champion Honky Tonk Man over Bam Bigelow on a disqualification. Fun match. Honky over Bam Bam on a DQ. Jake Roberts and Rick Rude going to a double countout. And Andre finally pinning Hacksaw Jim Duggan, using the ropes for leverage. But it is the 8th wonder of the world. A different finish. Hallelujah. Andre the Giant pinning Hacksaw. As we go on, starting to close out the month here, 4 nights in a row, May 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. Gotta be a C show based on some of the crowd numbers. Northeast Maryland at the Tri-C Physical Education Center. Benefit card there. Also, Lexington Park, Maryland, Great Mills High School Gym. Wilson, North Carolina, Athletic Christian College Gym. And Taylorsville, North Kakalaki, North Carolina, that is, guys, at the Alexander Central High School Gym in front of 250 fans. You heard me right. Reportedly 250 fans in Taylorsville, North Carolina. And I'm not familiar with that city. Maybe that's the entire population. Results look like this. Joe LeDuc over Scott Casey. Big Boss Man defeating Jose Estrada. Got to start somewhere, Bubba. Sam Houston defeating Dangerous Danny Davis. Ladies Champion Sherri over Desiree Peterson. Junkyard Dog over Outlaw Ron Bass. And the Young Stallions defeating the Bolsheviks on a disqualification. Also on May the 29th, 8,100 fans out to Montreal, Quebec and the Forum to see Jerry Allen over Mike Sharp. The Rougeaus defeat Killer Bees. IC Champion Honky Tonk Man over Brutus the Barber Beefcake, maybe definitively here. It's Bad News Brown and Bret Hart battling to another time limit draw. Tag Champs Demolition defeating the British Bulldogs. Starting to change some things up here, and I like it. Birdman Koko Beware over Bobby Heenan. Ken Patera battling Dino Bravo to a no contest. And WWF Champion Randy Savage scoring another victory over Ted DiBiase on a DQ. As we move on to May 29th, Pontiac, Michigan and the Silverdome. Remember 93,000? Well, Melt said 78,000. We hypothesized 87 here on the Grenade Show. But they don't do anywhere near any of those numbers here, returning to the Silverdome for a house show May the 29th in front of only 1,800 fans. You got to wonder how much of that arena was closed off. Lanny Poffo over Barry Horowitz. Brady Boone defeating Steve Lombardi. Strikeforce over Haku and High Chief Afi. One-man gang pinning Bam Bigelow. Jake Roberts battling Rick Rude to a double countout. It's the Ultimate Warrior over the mighty Hercules. Greg Valentine scoring a win over George Steele on a DQ. Don Morocco scoring a win this time over the Anvil, Jim Neidhart. And in the main event, Jim Duggan battling Andre the Giant to a double DQ. Andre and Hogan, 14 months ago, 93,000 fans. Andre and Duggan, May 1988, 1,800. And all we get here is a double disqualification. At least they're changing the finishes. Finally, as we go on to May the 30th, Portland, Oregon. Don Owen country here at the Memorial Coliseum, 7,500 fans. Jerry Allen over Mike Sharp. Rougeaus defeating the Killer Bees. Dino Bravo defeating Ken Patera on a forfeit. Of course, again, attacking him during that arm wrestling contest prior to the bout. Bad News Brown over the Hitman Bret Hart. 6-man action. Birdman Koko Beware and the Bulldogs over Haku, High Chief Afi, and Bobby the Brain. Beefcake defeating IC Champ Honky Tonk on a DQ, and WWF Champion Randy Savage pinning the $1 Million Man. So kind of a joint show there, bringing the IC title match over to the WWF title tour in order to run a show in a big city like Portland. As we roll on also May the 30th, Bakersfield, California at the Civic Auditorium. Barry Horowitz over Lanny Poffo. Lombardi over Brady Boone. Don Morocco defeating Jim Neidhart. It's the Warrior over Hercules. Hacksaw Jim Duggan pinning Greg the Hammer Valentine. Well, that's new. Bam Bigelow over the Gang on a countout. Strikeforce defeating Tag Champ Demolition by DQ. and to end the night, Jake the Snake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick Rude. As we close out the month of May in Fresno, California at the Celent Arena, May the 31st, in front of 7,000 fans for a Wrestling Challenge taping. Now, we won't get into the matches or the segments scheduled for the actual Wrestling Challenge TV taping. We'll talk about those when we get there. What we will talk about is some of the matches that will air on Primetime Wrestling and even International Wrestling Challenge, including Haku, now going into singles here, scoring a win over Lanny Poffo. Haku delivering a diving headbutt off the top rope there. Then to air June the 13th on Primetime Wrestling, Rock Don Morocco over Daryl Nichols squash match with a Tombstone Piledriver. And then a week later, scheduled to air June the 20th, a pair of matches featuring Hercules with manager Bobby Heenan over Jose Luis Rivera. Also, the Killer Bees scoring a win over the Hart Foundation. Haven't seen them teaming up since WrestleMania time, really. It's the Bees over the Harts by DQ. Match goes just over 10 minutes. Jimmy Hart finally coming to ringside. Doesn't appear to be wanted by the Hart Foundation here, but he will interfere, attacking Brian Blair with his megaphone. And this wasn't the first time Hart had come to ringside. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that Jimmy actually came out midway through the match as well, tried to come out on the Hart's behalf, and Bret Hart dropped down off the apron and sent Jimmy Hart packing, pointed to him to head backstage. The Hart Foundation no longer wanting a part, it would seem, of their manager Jimmy Hart. Of course, he comes back out here, interferes on behalf of the Hitman and the Anvil, blasting Blair right in front of the referee with the megaphone, costing the Hart Foundation the matchup. Going to be a DQ win here for the Bees, and the Hart Foundation chasing manager Jimmy backstage. The plot thickens there. What's going on with this group? They were the reigning tag team champions not that long ago. Now, also in dark matches as part of this Fresno Challenge taping, it's Brutus Beefcake versus Honky Tonk, Bigelow and the Gang, Strikeforce and Demolition, The Ultimate Warrior versus Bad News Brown. Now, that's interesting on a few levels. First off, The Ultimate Warrior, Jim Hellwig, yes, but Bad News Brown was also known as The Ultimate Warrior. That was his nickname, Bad News Allen, in Stampede Wrestling prior to this. Now, that's fun. What's even more fun is trying to picture how these two functioned in the ring together. I would love to see this match. You see those unreleased matches that made the light of day? This is one I would love to see how it played out there. The Warrior and Bad News. Also on the card, it's WWF Champion Randy Savage versus the $1 Million Man. And another match that was released, Jake the Snake Roberts and Hacksaw Jim Duggan over the pair of Heenan family members, Ravishing Rick Rude and Andre the Giant. Match goes about 10 minutes before Jake gonna pin Ravishing Rick. Again, Duggan cracking the Ravishing one across the back with his 2x4 to aid the Snake in the pinfall victory there. But what a fun month of cards. Lots going on here right now and so much more to come. The TV is going to be even hotter and better than ever. I promise you that. Just a few of the names slated to debut in the upcoming weeks. Of course, we talked about Sean Mooney, the Big Boss Man. The Rockers are going to be here. Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, going to be here in no time. And yes, the debut of I Love You. Yes, I'm talking about Brother Love. Going to be here in just a few weeks as well on the Grenade Show. So stay tuned for all of that and so much more, guys. I want to thank you so much as we got 3 brand new podcasts. Well, they're not necessarily brand new, but they are to the WrestleCopia family. Got 3 new shows up and running over the last couple weeks. Want to invite everybody to go check out Dave Dynasty and his Wrestling Nostalgia podcast. Been around for 5 years or more now. Dave's always got great interviews. What an historian of the history of professional wrestling there. Go check him out. Now part of the WrestleCopia brand, as is Gene Jackson's brand new show, the Retro Wrestling Review, where he goes back in time and with a slew of co-hosts. Right now, they're kicking off a USWA, that's Memphis Wrestling, for the 1990s. Hell of a project there. Gene's starting off with 1993 in the USWA. And if you guys have been around the Grenade long enough, you know we covered at length 1993 in the WWF, and that included at the top of every show the crossover feud between the WWF and the USWA, and now Gene going to do it in real time, both on YouTube in video form as well as the audio podcast of the show. You want to go check out the Retro Wrestling Review, Doink the Clown, the narcissist Lex Luger in the Memphis studio? Are you kidding me? Macho Man Randy Savage returning to Memphis, Evil Vince McMahon in 1993, and so much more. Going to be a fun ride there. Check it out. And also check out The Other Ship. If you listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, you've heard Jamie Ward put these guys over time and time again. More fun-loving guys of the history of professional wrestling. They also talk the current product and anything in between. Movies, TV, old school cartoons, foods, music, you name it. These guys talk about it. Talking about Michael Herrick, Drew Samuels, William Merriweather, Chris Spiker, and a host of guests joining the show. That's The Other Ship. All three of those shows now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, guys. Check them all out. And, of course, all the other great shows we have to offer. The Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, the Regional Wrestling Podcast, the Pro Wrestling Academy with Dan Ginnity, covering the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. All of that and so much more. And remember to follow me on social media, guys. Follow me on X at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade and YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube. And last but certainly not least, would appreciate your support, your donations over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. There's the granddaddy of them all, the old $5 all-access tier. Gets you so many gifts, guys, for just $5, but also the brand new $9 Superfan Deluxe tier. Get you all future video casts, show notes for Dan's Pro Academy, Gene's Retro Review Show, and more on the way. Check it out. Remember, every penny goes right back here in the podcast network. You're helping us grow, guys. You're helping to support the brand. Just want you to all know how much we appreciate you and leave those 5-star reviews wherever you listen to your podcasts. They go a long way in helping build the network. But with all of that said, time to say goodbye this week, guys. But when we return, it's going to get fun, as if it wasn't already, as we kick off the month of May TV for 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. What's going to happen next? We saw the feud brewing between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Andre the Giant, Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts, and so much more. Well, we'll see what continues on here into the month of May, guys. Stay tuned. Next time around, it's May TV for 88 in the WWF. But for now, time to say goodbye. But we will be back next week. More Wrestling Grenade goodness on the way. But until then, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. See you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
You got the eye of the tiger, huh?
I don't know if I got the eye of the tiger or the heart of the tiger, but I understand one thing, or excuse me, understand one thing. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's got desire. Hacksaw Jim Duggan has got the fans behind him, and that's all it's going to take. Because you can knock me down, Giant. You can beat me up. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll crawl out of the ashes. I'll get up off the floor, and I'll keep coming for you. And I'll keep coming for you. And I'll keep coming for you until you lie down and my hand's raised high.
We're going to see what happens. We'll be right back.